Our session will begin in 5 minutes. Make sure you have filled out the registration form through the link on this Google site. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. Good afternoon to all of you guys. Thank you for making it to the second half of our Mindset series. And today, for the next hour and a half, we'll be talking about performance. We'll introduce to you guys who's with you today. There is a couple of us with you. I am Peach. I am your agency lead. And we'd like to welcome everyone. And conducting majority of the session is the ever amazing Jim, our country lead for performance. Just a quick shout out on the reminders. This is a new thing for you guys. Instead of a YouTube live stream link, you are now in a microsite. And in this microsite, you will see a couple of sections. We'd like to briefly take you through. At the third, so mark your attendance in by clicking on that button. And then below that is where you are watching this live stream. At the bottom of that is the chat box. So sign up. You can put your nickname. You can ask questions, and we'll find time later on to go through the questions in the chat box. If you need help as well, just type it in there, and somebody will assist you. And finally, later on at the end of this session, we'll have a small Kahoot quiz, and you can click that link later on to do that. All right. So without further ado, I'd like to turn you over to Jim.
All right. Thank you, Peach, and welcome everyone to our performance mindset session. So I'm Jim. As Peach mentioned, I'm your the performance lead for Google Philippines, and yeah, really excited to take you guys through our performance solutions for the next hour. So I realized that you still have you're coming from on a Friday and you know, we're talking about performance on a Friday afternoon. Just finished lunch. So I'll try my best to sort of keep this really engaging. If you guys have any question, for those who've done sessions with me before, you know that at any point, just feel free to just like list down the questions there in the comment and feed it back. If we know the answer, we'll get back to you. If we don't, if you know the answer, we'll give you the answer later on. But if not, we can get back to you guys with the correct answer after. Well, at least with an answer after. And yeah, and feel free to just ask away. The nerdier, the better. Any sort of direction like that, that's fine as well. Okay, so let's start, right? So I wanted to start with this slide because you guys might, the last session you guys did was with Jolly, and I'm sure did a great job sharing with you guys your sort of like putting you guys in terms of a branding mindset, like how the things that you would think about when it comes to branding. You're going to be looking at how to get a lot of like efficient reach, those type of terms, how you use YouTube on top of like how you guys plan your TV campaigns, for example, right? Those are the type of discussions you will have for branding, but very different now. So right, so almost everything he shared with you was we were taking a very different direction in terms of what we're going to cover this afternoon, right? And the idea there is really sharing with you some principles in terms of what a performance mindset is. And I wanted to start with this, right? To see like how far you guys are at in terms of your performance journey, right? Because in my experience, I've been with Google for 7 years. A lot of in the Philippines, I find that we're still kind of skewed towards thinking branding, versus thinking very heavy in terms of like performance. So, and sometimes these type of things can be very organizationally led, right? So I wanted to this can be sort of like good starter questions for you guys to think about when you think about the company you're from, the agency you're with, in terms of how you guys are at in terms of when you think of it in a performance mindset. The first one: does your team make decisions based on data and audience insights? Like performance is very data heavy, data led. You should be coming from a place of insights, coming from a place of data. And is that something you guys are doing, right? Are decisions being made based out of data and insights, right? So that's the first one. I'm sure a lot of you may be answering yes, and that's I hope so. The second one is very interesting. When you guys plan your marketing campaigns, do you set budget based on target and goals? That's very important when it comes to like thinking about performance campaigns. When you think about it, like sometimes, because I know what happens is like it's the other way around, right? This is the how much I have 1 million in budget. I have 100,000 in budget. What can I do with this budget? Is sort of like the discussion sometimes how it starts. And that's fine. But I think what happens sometimes is that when it comes with performance campaigns, it's much better when you're starting first with terms of the target and the goals that you have, and then sort of going from there. So for example, like saying, like, instead of saying like I have 100,000 in budget, or I have a 1 million in budget, what do I do with it? Starting the conversation with something like, I have 10,000 seats to fill in my airline. How do I go about that? Right. So it's very different in terms of like the mindset that you would have, because you're coming from a place of objective first, then basing it off the data that you have. Okay, now that I have 10,000 seats I need to fill, and I know that this is my cost per acquisition number, then so on, this should be the budget that I should have for this sort of campaign, something like that, right? And the last one can be the toughest part, right? Does your organization see Google or other digital channels in general as sales enablers? Sometimes we tend to just see advertising or these type of things as like marketing sort of tools, and they are, right? But if you are having a performance mindset, if you are basing your budgets out of your targets and goals, it's easier to see these type of channels as sales enablers. I'm behind on my sales targets for Q2. But because I have data that says this is sort of my cost, my acquisition number, and I know that I can use these type of channels as a way to get me my customers, then I know I can use Google, I can use these other channels as a way for me to catch up with my sales target if you are in that position in the company. So having those things, and I know the third one can be toughest because again, it can be kind of like organizationally led. But definitely these are the type of things that I think you would see in terms of like how digitally mature is the company in terms of like how they run their digital campaigns and plan their digital strategies. Okay, next up. So for this afternoon, for the next hour, I'm going to talk to you guys about these 3 steps, these sort of 3 ways for you to sort of leverage performance. The first one is driving intent to action. That's as Google, we talked about intent a lot, and that's something you can really leverage us with. And I'm going to share with you some principles in terms of how to do that. The second one is automation. How can you leverage on machine learning? When it comes to performance, machine learning has really been the biggest change in how we look at it that way. 10 years ago, I was implementing digital campaigns with agency before I joined Google, and back then it was very manual, right? You had to really like figure out like how to sort of gain an edge. How do you really make sure that you're really optimizing? Machine learning has changed a lot of that. Now it has just so many things that it can do for you faster when it comes to like setting your budgets, creating your campaigns, creating your creatives, those type of things. How do we leverage automation for that? The last one, because we're talking about performance, is measurement and attribution. If you don't know how you're measuring, if you're not able to see these sort of data points, how do you know if your campaign has been successful? You don't, right? If at the end of the day you're saying like, oh, I have 1 million impressions, that's great. Like, how do you know that's great, right? How do we know that really led to some sort of impact? And that's why measurement and attribution are really going to be very important as you guys take on your performance journey, right? So I also tried my best. I know that we have a big audience here, so I wanted to make sure also that it's kind of very varied to the type of audience. So if, for example, you may know a lot already about our performance solutions, maybe in attribution, there's also going to be something for you. So hopefully that's going to be the case. All right. So very excited. Let's go to the first one, driving intent to action. How do we do that? Right. So the first one, I always have to go back to the beginning, right? If you guys again have attended sort of my talks before, this may be something you've heard me talk about, but it's just very important that we always go back to the beginning, especially when you think about Google. Is that people are searching. Google is a search company, right? So we see that people are searching regardless of the vertical or the product you're in. People are searching for recipes. People are searching how to open a bank account. People are searching in all sorts of ways. And sometimes I get questions, Jim, how has it changed since the last time, with COVID, in the situation that we are now, how has it changed? The answer is it hasn't. It hasn't changed. There is a change in demand. Yes, that's true. More and more people are searching. More and more people are looking information. But when it comes to the strategy, when it comes to how you guys are going to be answering these questions, the fundamentals stay the same. It's being there, right? So next slide. In Access here, they will search even when you're not there, right? They will search even when you're not there. So the demand has increased, but how we talk to our consumers stay the same. And actually, when you think about it, it's even more emphasized, right? If people are looking for information, how do I do my banking now that I'm at home? How am I able to get a credit card, or how do I increase my credit card limit now that I need to make more purchases from home? Those are the type of information people are searching for. They've searched for it before, but they're searching for it even more now. And your ability as a business, your ability as an agency to really provide these answers, to really give the customer what they're looking for, is even more important. So when they answer to answer to the question that I ask myself is just being able to really provide the information better in a more efficient way is really just how it's changed. But has search strategies changed? No. In terms of, it's still a matter of really being there in terms of the conversation and answering those type of conversation in a really good way is still really the fundamental truth here, right? Because again, when they search, and this is really something I mentioned a lot about search, it doesn't matter if you have a campaign or not. If I need help, if I need to cook tonight and I'm looking for inspiration, I'm going to search for what to make for dinner. Whoever is there to talk to me, to give me an idea of what to make, is the one I'm talking to, right? So you could be the best brand out there when it comes to, like, we could have the best recipes, but if you're not there to give me that answer, I'm going to go with the thing that gives me answer. And based on experience, I'm going to follow it step by step. I'm not that good of a cook to try it differently. I'm just going to follow that step by step. So if that brand says, try my brand, make sure you put that, a lot of my brand, put that all over that recipe, and that's what I'm going to do, right? Because I just don't know enough. And that's probably going to be the experience of a lot of users. And even when you go out of search, that's also the experience, right? So they're also browsing in terms of the content in also other places. So we go to the next slide, please. So when you look at how people are treating websites, and there's just a lot more time now. So we also seeing people really looking for related information. People are hungry for information. They're gonna go to websites. They're gonna find step by steps. If they either like to read in terms of getting information, or they're gonna go to videos. They're gonna watch videos. They're gonna watch how-tos. They're gonna go to apps. They're gonna spend a lot of time on these apps. So the ability to be present when somebody's looking for you is not just present in search. Although of course that's very, very important. It starts from there, but your ability to be present everywhere. Next slide, please. So that's why being present across these platforms are so important, because that's really the way to really share your message. If we're not there, there's no point talking about the rest. Anything else I have to talk about for the next 50 minutes. There's no point of it. You have to be present. That's really the first step right there. Next slide. But because this is not a branding session, this is a performance session. So driving action is also just as critical, right? We want to be able to drive action. I always say that, for example, the idea of call to action, never underestimate calls to action, because if you don't do it, if you don't give them the direction of what to do next, they won't do it. They might just be like, oh, thank you for being there and just telling me that you're available. But maybe that's it, right? But what if you make them do something? I always feel, especially when you think about search, it's much more powerful when you have it do something, because it's a very filtered audience who's already looking for you, right? So next slide, please. So these are how you can be present across all across the Google platforms, right? So we won't really go through much about all these. We'll just take some examples, but to show with you sort of like how you can really leverage Google. So you're looking at on search, being present on search, picking the keywords that you feel are going to be really important for you during these times. What are the questions that your consumers could be thinking of? So for example, using autocomplete. When you go to Google search, right, when you type some stuff, it like gives you some autocomplete recommendations. Very important to find out what are the keywords that people are looking for you. And of course, we can also help with you in that area. And there are tools like Keyword Planner that can help you with that area. The second one is shopping. That's really something that it's really been happening more and more, and we'll dig through that in a second. The other ones I'm going to cover first, which is discovery and smart display campaigns. Discovery campaigns shows up in Gmail, shows up in when you make searches, there's recommended articles, which that's called the Discover feed. It shows that there as well. The homepage of YouTube. Those are the type of areas that discovery campaigns play in. And smart display campaigns are apps and websites. So basically, it's being present. there's a lot of touch points that users are playing in now, that there's a lot more time, right? They're in websites, they're in apps, they're doing emails, they're going to YouTube. Those are the type of places you want to be present in, and that's why Truly for Action is also a platform in here where the platform is intended to drive action versus going for reach or going for consideration. It's trying to drive action, whatever that may be, right? So let's take an example here. So let's look at shopping as an example. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I wanted to use shopping because this is sort of like the newest sort of format that we have. Actually, format is called Smart Shopping, where Smart Shopping is the ability to not only before shopping was only present on search, but now these shopping feeds, where you have the product, the price, the description, are going to be present as well in display. It's going to be present as well in YouTube. It's going to be present as well on Gmail. So that's Smart Shopping. But I wanted to use this as an example also to share with you guys that, it's really also not, it's aside from just being there, right, which is really the first step that I mentioned, but also being very relevant to what the users are searching for, especially now, right? There's a lot of shopping that's happening, a lot of purchases that are happening. I speak for myself, especially like now when I go to search, when I go to YouTube or Gmail or display, like I keep seeing shoes, right? Because I just bought the pair of shoes and I've just been researching what pair of sneakers should I buy next, even though I can only really wear it when I'm walking around outside. But I still want to buy shoes and I'm still searching for these things. But that's where these being relevant in terms of being contextual about it, that yes, we know that's what you're searching for. You bought this one before, but how about this one? And we have it to you at a nice rate. Providing that relevant information for me, right? Because if you showed me something else, like if you just showed me a regular shopping ad that has, let's say, a handbag, for example, that's screenshot there, I'm not going to be interested in that, right? I want to see shoes. Show me the shoes, right? That's what the information that I'm looking for. And it's the same way with everything with other platforms I mentioned a while ago, where it be search, whether it be discovery, smart display, Truly for Action. It's not only just being present, right? It's not, we just don't want to be, you don't just want the reach, right? This is a performance campaign. We want to drive action, and being relevant and being able to provide that information, that call to action, to really tell the user that I'm the business for you. I'm the one that you're trying to reach out to because of the intent you're showing. Here's what I can offer to you, and give you some urgency by giving you that call to action as well. Okay, so that's the next step, right? Being able to really be present and be relevant. But let's look at the next one. Next slide, please. And when you do, the next step is when you drive to that user, you have to remember to also not miss out on that last mile. Speed is everything. That's the first step. Speed is everything. 53% of users will leave a site that takes longer than 3 seconds to load, right? So the question I would ask you guys, the audience here, is that how fast is your website? Does it load longer than 3 seconds, or is it slower or longer, right? How long does it take? And especially important now, right? People are looking for information. They're trying to, they're just trying to see what information they get. If it takes too long, this type of behavior, it's free, right? So if a site is just taking forever to load, why wouldn't I just click on the back button and just click on the next option that I see on search, right? Why would I stick around if it's really taking a long time? So speed is everything. You guys have to make sure that we're always looking at that. Next slide, please. And the ways you can do it is, these are free tools that you can use. You can already use these tools to test it out. The first one is the mobile friendly test. So just type mobile friendly test on Google. This sort of bar will appear, and you can put your URL to test it out. It's the most basic one of the 3 options that I have there, but it's just a way to show is it mobile friendly? Meaning for those people who are just using their phones, they're not using desktops, they're not using laptops, how good is your site when it loads? It's already 2020, but there's still a lot of sites that are not very mobile friendly. And I've used a few of them over the last 30 days. It's not great, right? There's a lot of doing it's not great, right? So just make sure that you guys are also very mobile friendly, because, especially we don't know the situation in terms of what's happening. It's a lot of uncertainty, and if you're able to really provide all the information to the users without them having to reach out or in their convenience, much better. So that's the first one. The second one is sorry, can you go back, please? This one. So the next one is the to the right is called test your mobile speed. So if you just go mobile speed test, you'll be able to see this. If you go to go to this page, you enter your URL, and you get us basically like how fast is your site checking. So you get that number on how fast you are. You better or lower than 3 seconds, right? But the reason why I like this also specifically is it has a 3G test. And here in the Philippines, there's still a lot of devices or users that are still in 3G. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. The bottom left one is my favorite. It's called Page Speed Insights. You just Google Page Speed Insights. The first link is going to be it. You put your URL there. The reason why that's my favorite is it will tell you if your page is fast or slow, but it gives you the reason why. And not only that, but it gives you the reason why that your developer will understand. These are things I don't understand. It just tells you like, oh, this image is so big. Generally, for a lot of like FMCGs, that's usually the reason it's usually so big. But other reasons, right? This thing did not load properly. Like I don't understand it, but your developer will understand it. So all you need to do is run that test and say, hey, developer, my website is running so slow. You copy and paste that link. They'll be able to see why and how they can really action on it right away. So really, really good test. These are all free, and I hope that you guys are using it. Not only to test it now, hopefully maybe like you're testing it right now, I hope so. But even if you don't, I recommend every time you put new content, maybe like monthly you're putting new content for your website. If you're doing that, do this test. Any of these tests takes 30 seconds to run. So it's not like a long thing where you have to wait a long time. It's 30 seconds, you get the results right away. Next up. So, and a way that you can really improve that. The reason why, by the way, these numbers are so low now, you might think 3 seconds, that's really fast. It's because of technologies like this. This is called Accelerated Mobile Pages, or AMPs. You'll see it. It's the one in the right that seems to be loading much faster than the one without the lightning bolt. So you see these sites where you see the lightning bolt on the side, that means they have their AMP enabled. Really fast, basically, it just preloads everything in a really quick way. My suggestion is, you're not going to be able to, if you're not yet on AMPs, it might not be an overnight process, but reach out to your developer and just already start that conversation. How do I, make that change, or how do I slowly test it out? Maybe you want to do it first with your landing page, just one page first, and then sort of like go from there. All right, let's go to the next one. Oh, before I forget, even more important. So for those brands or for those advertisers that are still having a challenge, like, oh, we really have problems in terms of how we do our landing pages. We've also partnered with Shopolis, who've helped us with this. Basically, what they do is, they basically help organize your landing pages for you, make it easy for product comparisons that can lead it to different types of retailers, online and offline, that you may have. So I would also recommend these types of solutions like Shopolis, in terms of helping you guys ramp up if landing page creation is sort of like a challenge that you guys are facing right now. So please reach out to us, reach out to your Google contact, and they can sort of help you at least get started on this. All right, next up. So that's the first one, right? We covered driving intent to action. And just to summarize that, driving intent to action is really first being there. That's really the most important part. But after that, providing relevant information. And when you go to the landing page, make it easy for them. Speed is important, making sure that speed and being able to find that they're looking for. Either it's a website that you already have, helping them navigate right away, or just, relying on these type of like third-party solutions to really help sort out your content for you. Next one. The next one is we want to also leverage automation. So again, I mentioned to you guys a while ago, automation has really changed with machine learning over the last 10 years, right? Just even the last 2-3 years. And automation and machine learning, those type of things are really ingrained into a lot of solutions, whether you're looking at smartwatches, you're looking at phones, you're looking at smart home devices, you're looking at smart TVs. Automation, machine learning, these are very ingrained in terms of like in a lot of technology that's available today. So I hope you guys have already tried out some of these technologies. I am personally very fond of Google Home. I cannot. That's really part of like our everyday life now. That part of like reaching for the lights. That's just I've eliminated that from my life. So I have that extra movement now that I can do every day because I don't have to do that. So anyway, but we're not here to talk about all those devices. We're here to talk about automation, which is how it works on Google Ads. So let's look at the next slide, please. There's a lot of things that have changed in terms of automation with Google, and these are the three ways that it has. Of course, there's more, but these are the three that we're really going to be focusing on for this section. The first one is how you do budget and bidding. And the second one is how you do your creatives, how you how you fast track that instead of having to create a lot of different creatives for a campaign. And of course, campaign management, making it easy to create and run a campaign. So let's look at it one by one. Let's go over budget and bidding first. Next slide, please. So I know that, again, I'm just referencing that you guys have talked a lot about like sort of like planning for reach, those type of things, bidding for CPMs, those type of things in the last session, but very different when we looked at how we look at bidding when it comes to performance goals, right? So you're looking at things like maximize conversions, target CPA, and ROAS. How do these things work, right? So these are bidding solutions that are meant to drive conversions, right? They're not meant to drive reach or impressions like a CPM buy. They're not meant to drive clicks like a CPC buy. They're meant to drive conversions. What that conversion is could be different things. You could also do it for a drive to your website type of campaign, clicking a buy now button, buying something, getting leads, downloading something. All those are the conversions. So a lot of different conversions that you can use. And the idea there before, again, if you look at 5, 7, 10 years back, a lot of it is still kind of, there was automated solutions, but to be honest, they weren't that good. There was still a lot, like I still used a lot of manual solutions back then because I felt that I could do it better, to be honest. I don't know if I actually did, but now the automated solutions are so good that actually it doesn't really make sense to do it manually anymore. The returns that you get just because of how much variations you will get from automated bidding is just infinitely better anymore. A lot better now than you would get for doing it manually. And what are these sort of like automated solutions that you can use for bidding? The first one is maximize conversions. When should you use maximize conversions? If you don't have a CPA number yet. So for a lot of you guys there, this may be your first time running a conversion campaign. So sometimes when the first question sometimes that they'll ask you when you run a conversion campaign is, what's your CPA? What's your cost per action, cost per acquisition? If you don't know the answer to that, my first suggestion is to do maximize conversions. Or for example, if you're doing a new campaign or a new variance to it, it's not exactly like how you've been doing it before, start with maximize conversions. The idea of maximize conversions is you're basically saying, hey, Google, I have $100 budget. I have $50 budget. My phone just turned on because I said the magic word. Let's say you have $500 budget and you're saying, this is my budget. Max, give me as much conversions as you can. And Google just like goes and takes it from there and basically maximizes the budget for you and just gives you as much conversions. It's a good way, again, if you don't know that CPA number, so at least maybe run it for a week or two, then you'll get, okay, this is sort of my CPA number, and you move from there. So that's where you would use that. The second one is probably the most common one that's being used. It's called target CPA. Target CPA is basically, hey, Google, I need to stop saying that. You say that, and you say, and then you give your CPA number. Google, my CPA number is $1, right? Try to beat that number. And what it will do is it'll keep improving the campaign. It's like a game, right? You're telling Google this is your top score, and Google is trying to beat that top score by optimizing the campaign. Sorry, my smart home is it's going on now. I need to stop saying these words. Okay, but that's what target CPA is. Basically, you're trying to beat that score. So if you guys are going with, let's say it's your first time and you have a fairly idea of what your CPA is and you want to go straight to that, you don't want to go maximize conversions. My only suggestion is don't put a super low target CPA right away, because you may end up really limiting the amount of impressions that you're going to get. Okay, so preferably you go with maximize conversions, get that score, and then plug that in when you go your CPA. So if, let's say you're running the campaign for a month or 2 months, you go 1 to 2 weeks with maximized conversions. Then for the rest, you go target CPA. Okay, but the last one, we do have target ROAS. When do you use target ROAS? You use target ROAS preferably also after you've done target CPA a little bit, but you can only really use target ROAS if you have conversion values. So let's say it's a shopping campaign where you're trying to maximize basket size. Those are the type of ways you can use target ROAS. Why is it different from target CPA? Because when you look at ROAS now, if for CPA, a conversion is the same as another conversion. They're just one conversion each. But when you look at target ROAS, it's different, right? If this conversion spent $100 and this conversion spent $50, this one is better, right? So the system is not just trying to maximize for conversions, but it's trying to maximize for the highest conversion value. So the more input you can give, so the system can figure out that, these two conversions may look the same, but actually I'm gonna prioritize this one because it's giving us more value. And that can be shopping. It can be like leads in terms of like how much a lead is able to give you, or any sort of conversions, booking, purchasing, and those type of things you can get target ROAS for. It's trickier. That one you can gonna be doing that later on. That's why this is probably the progression you would do. And in some cases, you may not need target ROAS. If, for example, each conversion is the same to you, then there's no point doing that. You might as well just do a target CPA campaign. So that's what these sort of like bidding strategies have now been very automated to help you with your campaign. But what about the creative? How now do you maximize creatives using automation? Let's go to the next slide, please. So the challenge for creatives when you run these campaigns, for example, is that there's a lot of context that's different now. You know, a lot of users are expecting personalized advertising. I want that it fits with to me. Like, I want to see the shoe ad, right? I want to see the shoe ad with the latest price, or I want to see an ad that fits with sort of like my interest versus just a regular ad. And honestly, it's better anyway as an advertiser, right? Because the more relevant ads you serve, you get better performance. So in a way, it rewards everyone in the ecosystem. So, but the problem with that is the creative challenge is there, right? How do I churn out so many different ads? How do I do that, right? It can be really daunting. Let's go to the next slide. And that's where these automation solutions come in. Go ahead and just click those things in. Go ahead. You can go for the rest ones. For search, you have things like responsive search ads and dynamic search ads. And display, you also have responsive display ads. Basically, what these solutions do is provide dynamic ads that will help that sort of adapt to the user's search or browsing behavior. So, for example, for responsive search ads, you provide a lot of different headlines, and the system will choose based on the context of the user what's more likely for the user to click on. Dynamic search ads, it's a way it will scan your website, and create content. So if, let's say, you didn't choose it as keywords, but someone made the search, but you have the content for it, it will automatically create an ad for you. So at least you can still reach that user. Responsive display ads, you provide only the basics, like the image, the description, those type of things. It'll automatically create display ads that's going to be native to the website it's serving on, to increase the chances that users are going to be clicking on them. And these are just more in the performance side, but there's other things that you can also adapt to performance, like director's mix for YouTube. More data-driven sort of like ads on display. You can also use them for performance, aside from just a branding sort of use case. But these are sort of the ones that I wanted to include. But these are ways that machine learning has really helped make these types of things easier now. And the last one is looking at now is on campaign management. Let's go to the next slide. And this is a really, really good example of it. It's called Google Max. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or not, but essentially what Google Max is it takes everything, all the solutions that we have that you can use for performance, and it bundles it together. So you don't necessarily need to worry anymore, like, how much should I put in Google search? How much should I put in display? How much should I put in Gmail or display or whatever, right? Google Max will do it for you, right? Because again, it's not so much like looking at how much you split it, but what is the data showing? And let's go to the next slide. I'll show an example of that. So not only does it automate the process for you, but you have these things like learning periods. What do I mean? How Google Max works is the first 2 weeks is the learning period. What that means is, in the beginning, maybe you'll put like 25% of your budget in the first 2 weeks, and you're just evenly splitting it up all these like platforms, search, display, YouTube. But after the 2 weeks, or even shorter than that, when the system has been able to say like, okay, I've gotten enough conversions, and I already know where the conversions are coming from. From then on, from week 3 to 6 onwards, it flies from there. It takes it on its own. It will determine the budget mix that is supposed to happen. So if, let's say, all the conversions are happening from YouTube, it will skew the budget to YouTube. If the conversions are happening on display, it will skew to display, or search, it will skew to search. Why does it do that? Because it only cares about conversions. It only cares about 2 things. How do I get the best CPA for you? How do I beat your learning period score? And how can I give you a lot of volume with that score, right? So efficiency, but also giving you the volume. So you're getting a lot more conversions for your budget. It doesn't care about reach. It cares about conversions. So that's why it doesn't. So if, for example, like, YouTube or display is really not driving a lot of conversions, it will move the budget elsewhere. So you're really fully relying on the system to really give you where the conversions are happening. Because again, you want to be maximizing your budget because you get more sales, you get more leads, versus going for reach. Again, that's a fundamental difference when you look at these types of campaigns like Google Maps. We also have other things like this. So you look at Smart Shopping a while ago, kind of like works the same way, where it already is across different portfolio with the purpose of just giving you results. If you guys have run app campaigns before, UAC or app campaigns does the same thing. You don't necessarily input anymore where is it going to show up. All you need to do is provide the creatives and really set sort of like your CPI or cost per install, and app campaigns takes care of it. It will it only cares about giving you downloads and improving your cost per install. So that's the difference there. But same here with Google Maps. It's where basically you do the learning period and it will learn from there. All right. So I got some question in terms of ROAS. Sorry about that. So ROAS is return on ad spend. So a while ago we mentioned on maximize conversions. That was our first one, right? Then TCPA is target cost per action, where you only care about getting a conversion, right, in an efficient way. But the last part is TROAS, is like your return on ad spend. So meaning the value, not just so much a conversion, but what is that conversion giving you in terms of value, right? Again, if you have 2 conversion, one is giving you 200 pesos, the one is giving you 100 pesos, this is a better one, right? And the system will try to optimize to get you more of these 200, so that you're not only getting conversions, but you're getting more value for your budget, right? Because a conversion is still the same, right? But if you can get higher value here, then your return on investment, or ROAS, return on ad spend, is going to be much higher compared to if it wasn't, right? So hopefully that answered that. Okay, next slide, please. So just a case study here from a ride-hailing company. Basically, they tried to use Google Maps before, and it was able to give them to sign up drivers. This was in a different market in Southeast Asia, but they were able to get an increase in leads, 50% increase in leads, and so they were able to drive the volume, and then they were also able to drive conversions, right? So maximizing volume, but also maximizing efficiency. Right. So by the way, so if it's something like this, if you're going for leads, maybe you're not going with a ROAS solution here. It's probably going to be TCPA, at least in the beginning. There's other ways you can also incorporate that later on, but in the beginning, you're probably just going to use a TCPA sort of strategy for something like this if you're in a ride-hailing company, or that's the client you're working with as an agency. Okay, next one. So we already talked about driving intent for action, right? We already talked about what are the ways that machine learning can help you, whether it's bidding, whether it's creatives, whether it's creating your campaign, or running it in an automated, in an easier way. The last part is measurement and attribution. This is a performance campaign. We need to know how we did, right? This is very important to find out how we can attribute and get every data point that we can. There's a lot of, this is a very heavy topic, to be honest, so I won't go too deep on this, but I'm just going to introduce 2 concepts with you guys. These 2 concepts, the first one is called data-driven attribution, or DDA. Sorry, we have a lot of acronyms here, but data-driven attribution is basically what that is. I'll explain what that is. And then the second one is Google Analytics, which is very important when you run performance campaigns. Okay, let's go to the data-driven attribution first. Next slide. So why do we need attribution? It's because it's so complex. That's the reason why, right? When a long time ago, attribution is much easier, right? There's only a few sort of like channels available. So you watch something on TV, you buy something. It's an easier way to attribute. But there's so much more complexity now, right? Even on digital only, there's already a lot of differences, right? Where whether you're in your mobile, you have a tablet, you're in your desktop, your laptop, right? And they switch a lot of between devices. You slip a lot between platforms. How do you make that? How do you make that attribution, right? So even if you just look at like a platform like search, right? Let's make this sort of like easier. Even on search, where you're only looking at one platform, there's still a lot of different devices. There's still a lot of ways to really look at these sort of touch points or data points. Let's go to the next slide. So let's look at this example here, right? Let's say you have 78,787 conversions, very specific. But you have those conversions and you want to improve your campaign, right? So, okay, so I have now historical campaign. I now have 78,000 conversions. How do I continue to improve on that? How do I make it better? And the answer is it's not easy, right? Because there's just a lot of variances that contribute to that conversions, right? So there's different times in the day, there's different locations, there's different devices and audiences, all those type of things that contribute into helping you make that conversion. And a lot of and sometimes what we do, because the attribution used to be, is the idea of something called last click attribution, where the idea there is that what was the last thing that got me the conversion, and you put all the value there, they search for broadband plan, and then then they converted, so that must be the best keyword for me, that must be what's really driving it for me. But the more we understand attribution, the more we understand that there are a lot of variances that's in play, we realize that last click attribution is actually not the best way, because you're missing out on a lot of information that worked, but that's also contributed to that. Think about the last time you bought something. Is it the last touch point, maybe the one that nudged you to finally make the purchase? But there's a lot of things that happened before, right? When I buy shoes, sorry, I keep going back to shoes, it's in my head. But when I buy shoes, it's not the last one that I saw that maybe that's the one that nudged me to finally like, but there was already a lot of decision making that's happened before, right? There's a lot of research depending on the product or touch points, or maybe I saw a really cool video on YouTube that sort of prompted me to click on the ad and go there. So there's a lot of complexity that can happen there. All right, next slide, please. And that's where DDA, or data-driven attribution, comes in. So the one below, you see, are rules-based. Rules-based tend to be very fixed. Like an example of that is last-click attribution, where I'm only going to give all my credit. So if I bought that shoe is worth, let's say, 5,000 pesos, for example. So I put all the value of that 5,000 in that last ad that I saw, right? But if you're going to improve the campaign, yes, that can work, right? But it's not going to be as efficient. It's not going to be as effective as being able to really plot out that journey that people took. And that's what data-driven attribution is. What it does is it will look at the consumer journey, and it will basically distribute the value of credit based on the data it's getting. So again, very automated. So this is something you couldn't do manually. It's very tough to do manually. But because it has a lot of signals, it's looking at all those signals, thousands and millions of signals that you saw in the previous slide. It's able to assign those values to the campaign. So next slide, please. I'll show you an example in a second. But how it would work is, first, you have to track conversions, right? That's step one. So if you guys are not yet tracking conversions, and you're really just more of, in the first step, the ones in the first two segments that I shared, this is your first step. You have to track conversions, right? You have to track conversions and make sure you're seeing also cross-device conversions. Without getting the data, there's no point in the analysis, right? So you have to make sure first you're collecting the data. And then the second one is on attribution, right? Then that's when you turn on data-driven attribution, so that it can look at the conversion action and sort of like distribute it from there. And then once you do that, the system can now look at all these automated bidding solutions, the ones I showed you a while ago, and it now incorporates this attribution that we've made. So now it's just, so remember I said to you that the system will fly and it will able to find where to convert, all those type of things. the more information you provide, the better it will do. So here, if you're able to do data-driven attribution, it tends to be much better because there's much more data you're giving to the system to optimize your campaign. Let's look as an example on the next slide. So, for example, here, maybe if you're doing last click attribution, when people click on, let's say, Google Pixel C, that's the only time you're giving the conversion to. So if you're in last click attribution, all the system do is gonna try to, okay, Google Pixel C, that seems to be the one that's working. I'm just gonna keep serving it to that keyword. But you're actually missing out that there's a lot of things that happen. You looked at best tech gifts and you didn't even know about the Pixel yet, and you were just looking for gifts. And then you saw that, oh, maybe there's some tablets that I can use. And then you looked at some tablets, and then that's when you landed on the product. So by distributing that credit, it's not, maybe it doesn't equal, maybe there's still going to be higher weightage on the last keyword. It depends. But the more you give that, when you do DDA, the system will give some sprinkles of credit for those other keywords, and that gives more data input for your auto bidding solution to come in. So that when you do TCPA, TROAS, you're now able to have more information the system has more information to make this judgment, and generally it leads to an additional impact in terms of the conversions you're getting. Okay, so kind of a complex topic. So I realize, if you guys have not just starting on your journey, this is just. But I think I just wanted to really show that this exists. I think if you're still not yet you haven't collected that much conversions yet, that's probably going to be the step one for you. This is just for me to really show that this exists, and this is where you should aspire to be, or where you should sort of aim your campaign to be, because this sort of future-proofs your campaign, right? If you're just relying on a CPA number and you're optimizing towards that, if you don't have as much data inputs, at some point you're going to, you're going to saturate your conversions. At some point, your CPA is going to go up because you're targeting the same thing over and over again. Google Pixel C, Google Pixel C, Google Pixel C. At some point, you're going to run out of customers. But the more that you give data inputs that, hey, actually, people who search top-rated tablets, people who search for best tech, some of them do convert as well. You're giving the system more information to be able to make these types of decisions. Okay, last one. Google Analytics. Next slide, please. Okay, go ahead and plug all those type of things there. So what is Google Analytics? Basically, it is a tool that we use to measure everything that is happening within an asset of yours. It can be an app or a website. So first one, let's just use website, maybe easier. So you can figure out things like, who are they? What are they into? Like, are they into travel, for example? What articles in your website are they reading? Where did they come from? Did they come from search, display, YouTube? It can also be other media. Did they come from social media? It can also be offline. Did they come from TV, from radio? What are the top, if you're selling things on your website, what are the top products that they viewed? And of course, figuring out the basic demographic information. These are all the things you can get with Google Analytics. Why is this so important? When you guys run campaign with Google, you get great information. You get impressions, you get clicks, you get conversions. But those are mostly ad-related metrics. But it's also important to figure out what is happening in your asset. That's the last mile, right? That's where you convert them to sell, to get leads, to get information, right? So you also want to figure out what is the role of your asset and how good is it in terms of like understanding your customers and also driving that action, right? And really helping you also with your attribution. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I'll show you the Google Analytics. You can just go to the animation as well. There are really like 4 main reports that you get from Google Analytics. This is I'm only gonna go surface level here. We can easily spend more than an hour on analytics if we really want to. But here, the 4 main things you can get from analytics. The first one is, who are your audience? What's their demographic? Which country are they coming from? What mobile device did they use? What are the what are the sort of like the behaviors that they have? Are they also interested in travel or finance? Are they looking for a job? Those are the type of things you can use audience for. The next one is, where are they coming from? Right? Where are they coming from? Meaning, did they come from paid media or organic media? Was it an article on like a Rappler Inquirer that led them to your website? Are they coming from organic search or paid search or Facebook or Instagram or TV or radio? You can sort of like get that, and you can make comparisons which media has been really effective in not only driving that customer to your website, because you can get that information on ads anyway, but what is their behavior when you get to your website? Are they reading? Are they staying longer? Are they interacting with your site more? Are they reading more articles? Are they fulfilling transactions? Those are the type of things you can get from Google Analytics. That's why it's so important, right? Especially when you look at a platform like search, right? I mentioned a while ago, search is much better when you make it do something. If you just get like the impressions and clicks, it's not that good, right? But when you make it do something, and when you look at the side-by-side comparisons, you'll see that, this is actually a very interested user, right? They already searched for you. They weren't prompted by something else. They did on their own search for you. So generally, what we've seen is that leads to better engagement. Because they search for you, they want to read, they want to see what you're about. They want to read your content. They want to engage with you more, right? So you get that information as well. The third one, you get behavior reports. What are they doing on your site? That now that they're in your site, what are they reading, right? You get also speed things. How fast was your website? But what is their journey on your website? How many pages did they look at? But the last one and most important one is, are you driving conversions on your site? And conversions here doesn't only have to be the final one. It doesn't need to be just a purchase. It can also just be time spent on your website. Did they read 2 to 3 articles in your website? That can be a conversion. Did they click on your video? That can be a conversion. Did they click the buy now button that led to a Lazada? That can be a conversion, right? Those are different ways that you can track and be sort of like have a performance drive to your website, even if you're selling something or even if you're not selling something, you're just leading them to another website, right? So those three, so audience, acquisition, behavior. If you just have Google Analytics, you already have that. The last part, conversions, you can only have that if you have goals turned on in your website. So if this is the first time you're seeing this and you feel like this is really interesting, and I'll show you some sample reports that for me is really, really interesting, and you want to have that, be able to see that for your brand or for your business, the first step is to turn on goals. Because if you don't tell the system what a conversion is for you, articles read, all those type of things, it will not be able to tell you if someone's doing it or not. Right? That's why that last part is not automatically turned on. You have to define what are the goals for you. You can set as many goals as you want. I think as much as 20 goals. So you can say, okay, landing on this page, articles read, time spent, clicking to the checking out, adding to cart, clicking the buy now button, all those type of things. You can track as many conversions as you as many as 20 conversions as you can. Okay, next one. But next slide. But Google Analytics is really there as well in terms of letting you understand who the users are. And it's really a mix of both, right? You have their known data, what are they into, what are their interests, all those type of things, but also observe behavior. Did they add something to the cart? How many times did they return? Have they purchased something in the past? So the mix of those behavior really makes it really meaty, to be honest, like in terms of the information you will get. So if you guys are handling brands or you guys are working on a brand or advertiser, if you're not looking at analytics data, even the basic ones, you're missing out on a lot, because you could really learn a lot from your on the information you're getting there about your audience, right? So let's say you're driving your audience like through paid or organic, but you not only understand who they are, but what are they into. Aside from obviously wanting to know about your brand, that's why they're in your website. What else are they into? And it can really also help with your consumer profile, with your audience strategy, those type of things. So really recommend on that part, I really recommend also looking at analytics to just understand the user. But when it comes to performance, when it comes to like driving conversions, these things, known data, observed behavior, they all feed into it. And these can be something that you can use for your campaigns to really drive better performance as well. So again, the more data you provide to the machine, the more it learns, the better the campaigns you get. Next slide. So when you're able to really understand your audiences, but you're also able to understand the value that you're getting, because again, there's so many different sources it gets from, right? It can get from online sources like display, like YouTube, like search, social, those type of things. But you can also get it from offline media. So you can also track like store visits through POS, your CRM data. You can also use it for you provide vanity tags for your TV and radio campaigns. There's ways you can also basically use. There's ways you can track the full customer journey to really figure out, when I'm telling my TV audience that that they should visit my website, are they actually doing it, right? Then this is your way of figuring that out. Or how engaged is my radio listener versus my social media visitor. Those are the type of things you can get. So understanding your audiences and really figuring out where they fall and the value that they're giving you. The last slide that I'll show you is basically like some of the sample reports that you can get once you have sort of like finish line I call this like sort of finish line metrics that you can get for Google Analytics. So let's go to the next slide, please. So this is the last slide I'll show you guys. I know maybe I'm talking about attribution in Google Analytics on a Friday after lunch. I've already nosebleeded you guys. Sorry about that. I tried my best to keep it very light. So promise this will be the last one. But for me, this is my favorite slide or sort of reports that you can get from Google Analytics. The first one there with all the colors there is called a multi-channel funnel report. It basically shows you what has been the audience behavior that led to the conversion. So for example, here you'll see that organic search, then conversion. What that means is somebody searched for you, they did not click on an ad, they went to your website, they left, they search again maybe later on, tomorrow or the next day, and then they visited your website again, and then they converted. So the reason why I really like this type of report is, when we plan our campaigns, we have an idea, right, in terms of how the journey will be happening. Like, oh, we will reach them in YouTube, and then we will drive that message with frequency with display. And then we will use search to really drive that consideration and get them to convert, right? Which is true. That's probably how it would work. But here, you will see if that actually happened. You will be able to see how all your media has been working together to get that conversion. And again, conversion can be different things. You can filter it. You can look at all conversions, and you can just look at your purchases, your articles read, downloading something, all those type of things. You can make those filters as well. So you can find out, I partner with this website. How good have they been in really like helping with my conversion? Do they really play a role or not? You can find that out. Or hey, I'm paying this influencer to do this thing for me, and they have a promo. Have they actually been helpful and like help all those type of things? Or how has display or YouTube or search help with that promo? You can find that information there as well. Then the next one, the top right, very small there, is that it also gives you time lag report. How long did it take to get conversions, right? So this can be very helpful how you face your campaigns. Okay, this is my first touch point, but how long did it take them to actually convert until the conversion part? It can also give you that sort of idea in terms of, okay, now that I know that it actually takes 15 days to convert my customer, then that's sort of how I will face my campaigns. I'll give them my awareness here, then I'll wait for a few days before I give them that last reminder to convert, so I can meet that 15 days of how long they would typically convert. So really, really useful information there. The bottom right is really what we aspire to be, and that is finding out the lifetime value of our customers. Because why is this so important? Why is lifetime value really important? So now, for example, because now the more information you get, the more you change the more that your decision making can change. So maybe let's go back. Maybe if you didn't have all these type of things, you're just saying like, oh, this one has 3% CTR, this one has 1% CTR, this must be better, right? But maybe then later on you figure out that, oh, this is 1%, but actually it's getting more conversions. So now this is better. So now your decision changed again. But maybe you figure out that, hey, this has more conversion, but this gets better conversion value. So maybe this is better, right? But then the last stage that you can get, and again, these are all true, right? These are things that are very true that can help you. But if, for example, you have a customer that's going to spend a lot with you now, they can be valuable. But if you have a customer that's going to spend with you now and a lot, maybe small now, but a lot more over the next 90 days or the next 3 months, that's much more valuable, right? That's why getting this information, right? Lifetime value of a user. How often do they spend back? How do they come back and spend more in your platform, or give you more leads, or give you more most of these things are so valuable. But again, this is more just like finish line. You don't need to do these things tomorrow if you're not able to yet. The first step here is make sure you have Google Analytics. Make sure that you're tracking goals so that you can start to get information and start to make your way towards this. So that's it on Google Analytics. I hope that you're still with me, and I hope your nose is not too red yet. Just to close this off before I pass it back to Peach, let's go to the next slide, please. I just want to summarize the learnings here. Thank you so much again for tuning in the last hour. I hope you're still with me, guys. The weekend is very near now, but I just wanted to summarize you guys the actions. The first one, drive intent to action. If you're not there, there's no point for the rest, right? That's pretty much it. So if you're not there yet, step one is to be there, right? Be there, be present in all these type of platforms so you can really be relevant and drive all this important information. When you get to the last mile, when you get to the landing page, make sure your website is easy to use, it's fast, it's easy. You're giving the customers a really good experience. There's also a lot of enablers for you to be able to do that, and that's automation. Whether it's helping you not anymore have to manually set the bid every time something changes. You can set it to your business objectives. I only want to go for conversions. I only want to maximize it by CPA and be more efficient. I want to maximize my conversion value, and that's ROAS, return on ad spend. Those are the type of things you can use. You can also get help from creatives. We're talking about responsive search and display ads, this dynamic search ads, all these like terms and formats. They're only really there to just help make ad copy creation faster for you. So you don't have to make a million different copies. It can be scaled and easier to use. And the last one is when you really think performance, you have to think measurement and attribution. We talked about two things here. The first one is data-driven attribution. Maybe if you're starting conversions, you're going with last click first. That's okay. But I would really recommend at some point to move to a data-driven attribution. So you're giving the system a lot more information to really optimize the campaigns. And the last part is, it doesn't end with the media. It doesn't end with your ads. There's a lot of really, really juicy, really interesting information you get on your website. So if you haven't yet, make sure that you guys are using your Google Analytics. Make sure that you have access to it, and you can make goals. You can make as many goals as you want, up to 20 per sort of like profile. Make sure that you guys are using it because you get these good stuff. You get sort of like be able to see like, now that I've planned my campaign, did it actually happen the way it happened? How long does it take from the first touch point of YouTube or display for them to convert? And what is really the value that I'm getting from my customers? So we started with just like like media metrics to like conversions to efficiency in conversion to conversion value, ROAS. But the finish line here is the lifetime value, where you can really see if I get this type of customer, from what I've learned before, this type of customer becomes a loyal customer to me, and they tend to spend longer with me, engaging with my business. So I will, make sure that I'm reaching this type of customer more. Okay, thank you again for letting me, talk to you guys about performance for the last hour. I hope you guys. I haven't seen the question. I hope you guys have a lot of questions. I'm really looking forward to it. But for now, I'll pass you back to Peach.
Right. Thanks, Jim. I guess I was really looking at it. I was very, very impressed with a lot of things that can be unlocked. It was magical seeing a lot of the things that can happen at the finish line. Very enlightening. And I'm sure, it's a pretty heavy topic, but I know that a lot of people are really interested now that we have to measure a lot of conversions, and then we have to make sure that our campaigns perform. Now that the digital economy is really, really alive. So I guess a lot of us heard a lot about shoes. If all of us started buying, we can attribute 100% of that value to your influence. Right. What's going to happen next? So what will happen? Go into your questions, but before that, we'll go to Kahoot. Is the microsite. Click on the Kahoot button. If you're in the live stream, you can just go to kahoot.it. Going into those platforms will allow you guys to enter the Kahoot interface, and you can enter this code 2928194. So get into that Kahoot, enter this code, so you guys can join our quiz. And for those of you who want to enter more questions or read the questions that are in the chat box, but the chat box isn't loading, just click refresh. Just refresh the page and the chat box should go back up. If not, you can click refresh again and then it should load in a bit. But for those who are here, please get into the Kahoot, go to kahoot.it or click on the Kahoot button and enter this code. The code is 28194. Okay, so I think we're waiting for you guys to join. Just go into kahoot.it or click the Kahoot button and then enter the code 2928194. So don't worry, guys. We just have 5 questions. So with 5 questions, it should be manageable. But the good thing is we'll be able to test a lot of the knowledge. It's more for actually you guys trying to see if some of the things that Jim shared, were we able to pick up some of it, apply some of it, and later on, how can we practice? I think the code changed. So the code changed to 716427. So, right. People are able to get in now. Again, go to kahoot.it or click the Kahoot button and enter the code 7162427. Let's just give you guys a few minutes to enter the quiz. If you guys are shy, feel free to put in names, but ideally we find a way to contact who the eventual winners are. I see people still trickling in. So maybe we can start when things are, when the participants start to slow down. Are you guys just me, or are you guys also playing the Kahoot theme song in your heads? We've muted it for now, but for those who've been with us for a while, you guys already know the Kahoot theme song. So let's just imagine it as a background. Maybe 15, 20 more seconds for those who are still coming in. We see participants are still coming in. We are at 96 players, 97 now. Let's get it to 100. And then we can start. Who is that magical person? We see some names here that show how much looking forward to the weekend we all are. Okay, I think that's about enough time for everyone. Ideally, we want to give more to Q&A. So again, just a reminder, type in your questions in the chat box. If the chat box isn't loading, just refresh the page. Okay, we can start. Let's start with a very, very difficult first question, which is, how is everyone feeling after this session? Very hard, very difficult. Choices are we 100% confident now with everything that we learned? Are we happy that we had this learning session? Are we trying to process all the information that we've had? And of course, everything could be better. Everything is actually the right answer. There is no right or wrong answer. You are feeling the way you're feeling. And it's good for us to see that a lot of you guys are happy and that. Of course, anything we can clarify for you to understand things more, be more confident, just reach out to us. We can now go to the second question. Right. Second question is, users demand and reward good performance and UX. So because of this, 53% of users will leave a mobile site after blank seconds. Is it leaving the site after 5 seconds, leaving the site after 8, leaving the site after 3, or leaving the site after 6? Unlike the first question, we have a right answer here, guys. And the right answer is actually 3 seconds. So 53% of users leave a mobile site after 3 seconds if there is no good UX. Most of the ones who got it the fastest are, next slide, we'll show the ones that are at the leaderboard. Adrenaline still at number 1. And K, wow, very tight. You guys, it's just a hairline. Adrenaline is just a hairline ahead. And we also have Secret, The Mysterious S, and Oust You Know Who. Wow, a very, very interesting message that we have there. Next question. What are the types of data sources that you can track with Google Analytics? There are many. Is it CRM data? Is it purchase behavior? Is it online media traffic? Or is it all of the above? What are the data sources that we can track? CRM, purchase behavior, and media. And most of you guys got it right. The answer is all of the above. It's the things that you can't put in Google Analytics that are fewer than the things that you can't put. So let's go with next. We'll see who's leading. It is the same set. You guys are really fast with your fingers. And you seem to know all the right answers, which is great. Let's go to the next one. Question 4 out of 5. What is not a type of bidding used for conversion campaigns? Not a type of bidding used for conversion campaigns. Is it CPM? Is it TCPA? Is it maximize conversions? Or is it TROAS? So target CPA and target return on ad spend. What is not a type of bidding used for conversion campaigns? So quite tricky here, but glad to see that most of you guys got the right answer. It is actually C, because all the other metrics are actually closer to a conversion than CPM. And if we look at our leaderboard, we will see who is leading. Is it the same set? There's been a shuffle. So the shuffle is K is now leading, Adrenaline not far behind, and Secret, As You Know Who, and is now entering the leaderboard. We have a final chance for you guys to top the leaderboard and the quiz with our final question. What are the formats you can use to help automate search ad copy creation? What are the formats you can use to help automate search ad copy creation? Dynamic search ads, expanded text ads, responsive search ads, and standard text ads. You have to be a master of definition. It is dynamic search ads or responsive search ads. So those are the two different formats that can help automate search ad copy creation. Let's see who's at the top. And our winners are, at third place is Oust You Know Who. At second place is Secret. And finally, number 1, I'm actually very interested, it's Adrenaline. Good job, guys. We'll just give a moment for a screenshot so we can take a note of your nicknames. Right. So someone's taking a note of this. Hopefully we'll be able to contact you some way, somehow. Next up, we're actually going to get into the meat of the questions in the chat box, and we'll have Jim here to answer some of them.
All right. Thank you, Peach, and thank you guys for being able to really amazed that you guys were able to get a lot of the questions. So that's really good to hear. Very good to see. Sorry. Okay, so let's go to the Q&A, right? So there's been a lot of questions here, and I'm not sure I can answer as many questions as we can with the time we have left. So I'm just going to read through them. I'm just going to go through it rapid fire. First question. Now as we have search ads appearing on YouTube search, if the advertiser have YouTube discovery running, which ad will appear first? Is it the text ad or YouTube discovery ad? So actually, they're in different forms. So the search ad is when someone does a search, right? It shows up in YouTube search as well. See, discovery ad appears on the home feed, so it doesn't show up in the search results, only in the home feed. So search results, see search demand doesn't appear in the home feed. So there's no basically long way of saying there's no conflict between the two formats. Okay. This next one, actually, I'll just say the question anyway, but we'll have to check on the answer for this one for you guys. Can Shopalyst pages be tagged using the same GTM account as a brand website? Or is it a separate GTM account required to tag Shopalyst? To be honest, I don't know the answer to that. We're going to have to check Shopalyst to it. But I do know that you would be the owners of that the landing page, right? But which GTM account, that's, by the way, for those who don't know, that's Google Tag Manager. It's like so you can tag your website manually, but this is sort of like a way to put all the tags in one place, so it's not very confusing. So whether the person who asked the question is asking, can they do it with their own GTM account, or do they have to use, or will Shopalyst be the one to tag? So for that one, I don't know the answer. We're gonna have to check on Shopalyst and whose account it's going to be. But the page itself is gonna be yours. So maybe that's gonna be the answer there. Next one. What is the minimum number of conversion value for my ad account to be eligible for target ROAS bidding strat? Actually, there's not much minimums there. When you create a campaign, it will prompt you the questions already, assuming you've done the tagging, all those sort of things to do a sales campaign, and you can already do a target ROAS bidding strategy. But the trickier part is not so much could you do it, but what is the number you're going to provide, right? What is going to be your target ROAS? And that's why for me, it's better to go out it in that ladder. If you don't have your CPA first, you go with maximize conversion. That's the starting point, because it's just like, here's my budget, maximize my conversions, right? And when you do that, you get a CPA. Once you have a CPA, then you can go to the next step, which is the TCPA. So you're telling the system, hey, this is my CPA. So if you already have it, you can skip the maximize conversion, right? But to your question on target ROAS, the way to get target ROAS is you should have been bidding CPA and then getting conversion, sort of like a sense of what your sales are. And then when you have that, you do the math, then you can plug that in as your target ROAS number. Now you could shortcut it and you don't have to do the other two, but if you don't put in the right number, it could impact your campaign a lot, because you might, for example, like if you put a value that's too low, it's not going to be able to find as much conversions for you. If you put the value too high, maybe it's not going to be as efficient right away. But to be honest, being high versus low is better. If you're too low, you don't know what's happening, right? You're just not getting any impressions. Next, for maximized conversions, how much or what percentage is Google allowed to consume on top of the daily budget if it's not enough? It doesn't matter what your bidding strategy is. In general, your Google campaign generally will spend up to 20% more on a given day. So how does this work? Let's say you have a $100 per daily budget, and your start date is June 1 to June 10. So you have 10 days, right? So if June 1 to June 10, you have 10 days, you have $100 daily. $100. Let's say what a total budget, you have $10 per day, right? $10, ganyan. $10 until the end of the day. But you set it as a daily budget kasi for search, right? So on a given day, you would get up to 20%, meaning in a given day, you could spend up to like $12 or so, ganyan. But as long as you don't change the budget or you don't change the start and end date, at the end of that 10 days, it will still balance to $100. Does that make sense? So regardless of what bidding strategy you use. But if you change the end date, then you're asking the system to recalculate. So sometimes you might go over. So just be careful of that. Okay, next. What is the best practices? What's best practice in adding DSA? should we create a separate campaign or add it separate campaign for it, or add it to our existing campaign? Basically, is the question here. There are different ways, to be honest. So I've seen campaigns where they have their regular search campaign, which is the text ads, and then they have a DSA campaign as a separate campaign. They have one naman where it's an ad group. So meaning in a campaign you have your regular ad groups and then you have one DSA ad group. So I've also seen that happen. But if you ask me, the most common way is the first example I gave, which is you have your regular campaign and you have your DSA. So in that example, you're using DSA as a catch-all. So meaning like anything you're not capturing on the regular campaign, you're capturing with your DSA. If you're using DSA as a catch-all, I would just say like put only about 10 to 15% of your budget there, because most of your campaign should be in the regular campaign. But if it's a part of your regular campaign, it's an ad group there, then you don't have to worry about budgeting that much. I've also seen instances, by the way, where they're just like, okay, we don't have like very specific priorities on keywords, so we're just gonna run a DSA and that's it. That's their entire campaign. They put the entire budget there. So you could also do that if you want to. DSA naman is transparent, so you can also see what are the keywords that are being triggered when you run a DSA campaign. But again, if you ask me, the most common one is the first one, where you have a regular campaign which has 85% of the budget, and you have DSA, which is about 10 to 15% of the budget as a catch-all. Next one. What is the minimum budget for Google Max? Is it available in PH? Is it beta or available to all? The second question is Google Max a separate tool we use? Is it available for PH? So similar question. Yes, it's already a tool you can use. Reach out to your Google representative. They can sort of help you guys on it. It's not a separate tool. It's a separate campaign, basically campaign that you run. Some clients I know will create a new ad account to run Google Max, so it's not overlapping, or it's just not so messy when, especially some with their current campaign. So you can also choose to do that. But basically, either you put it in a regular campaign or you create a new ad account for it. It should be fine. So we can really help you sort of sort it out. We would need to sort of do a call with you guys, figure that part out. Minimum budget is 40K USD. 40K USD for 4 to 6 weeks. The reason why do we have that minimum? If the budget is too low, you will basically not go past the learning period. You're doing the learning period and then you already run out. The reason why also that length is you need to allot that time for the learning period. So that's why we have that sort of minimums for the duration or the budget. You can sort of like find exceptions or all those type of things, but probably you're still going to be close to that number I gave. DDA needs 1,000 conversions per month to activate it, right? That one I didn't know, so I was able to look up very, very quickly while you guys are kahooting. Here, I'll read it to you guys. To have data-driven attribution model available, the requirements is over a 30-day period, you need to have 15,000 clicks and 600 conversions. So if you have 15,000 clicks and 600 conversions in a 30-day period, you're now eligible to have to be able to switch to a DDA model. There, specific siya. Next one. Since we're talking attribution, I'll skip this. I'll go this one first. What's a good scenario to opt for last click attribution? I don't know, to be honest. Is there really a scenario where that would work better? Honestly, you'll see it anyway in the performance. So the good thing is you need that minimum to move to DDA. So that means that the first thing you'll do is still last click attribution, right? So if, for example, you get 15,000 clicks and 600 conversions, and then it did not really work well, then you can sort of like figure out that when it is. Actually, Peach just made a comment that maybe for really short buying cycles, where you don't have enough data. That's true. If you're gonna go like a sale period, right, you really have no choice. That's why generally for sale periods, we would recommend that you're running the campaign earlier. So by the time that the sale like 11/11 comes in, you already have enough sort of like learned basically. But if really unavoidable, then you would probably just go last click attribution for that one. So thank you, Peach, for that one. I think this is the last question. How long is the? Actually, there's two more questions, but this one. How long is the view through of the customer included in the basic channel growth path? The one they said na parang may mga different right, the path. That's a good question also. You guys have really asked some really good questions here. So I honestly have gone like looking at like a full year cut of analytics and it still shows that data. So I think that's okay. But yung time lag report where I showed you before, it just has like 30 plus, 15 to 30 day plus at the end. So I think you're not going to be able to get a cut if you go past 30 days of like the time length. So if you want to know, is it really like 90 days or 100 days? You won't get that. Past 30 days, it's just going to say 30 plus. Pero this basic channel growth path, yung parang yung the one with the one in the left that I showed you guys a while ago, even if I go like a cut of a year, I still see some results. So I think it just averages it out. So you should still be able to get that, just not the number of days. And then the one that we the last one in this is that may we get the links to the free test. You only are able to solve the PageSpeed Insight. So I'll let Peach tackle that, but that's great that you guys wanna use that. I really recommend it. It's free for one, so it's really good to use. So that's it for me. Let Peach talk about that last one. But again, thank you so much. I love the questions. I thought this would be, I was kind of worried about the type of content. If it's on a Friday after lunch, I was like, oh my goodness, this is like the worst topic ever after lunch. But just based on the questions and your Kahoot answers, you guys were really on it. So happy. So thank you so much, guys. I hope this was a good use of your time. I really had enjoyed it. You know me from previous, I get really nerdy about this. So I had a really good time as well. So I hope you did as well. With that, I will bring you back to Peach.
Okay, I think I'm back. Thanks, Jim. Yes, for those who asked for the links, we'll try to send that through. If you're registered during the sign-up sheet for the event, and if you're registered on the microsite, we will be able to send that through along with the deck for everyone. So again, thanks, guys. Just one last note. Everything that you saw in this session is confidential and proprietary. This live stream is intended to be exclusively viewed by Google clients in the Philippines only. So this live stream is also proprietary to Google. As such, unauthorized sharing through any form or media, copying, reproduction, distribution, and or recording without written consent is strictly prohibited. Contents and discussions are also considered confidential. So with that, what you saw here and what we'll share with you to keep group within your team and within your company. So with that, I'd like to close. Thank you, guys. We're ending 3 minutes early, so you have 3 minutes back. Have a great Friday and have a great weekend.